Welcome to the very first episode of Florida Relocation Weekly, your ultimate guide for everything you need to know about moving to and living in the Sunshine State. My name is Adam Hancock, and in today's episode, we have some very exciting updates for you. First up, we are diving into some brand new construction communities that are fresh, barely even have names yet, and are going to change a lot of the landscape as we know it today. I've got the latest scoop on these up-and-coming neighborhoods, so you can not only know what to watch out for if you're looking to move somewhat soon, but even leverage a future opportunity. Next, we'll talk about incentives that home builders are offering buyers right now. From discounts to special financing options, we are seeing some historic deals out there that could save you a ton of money. Why do these incentives matter? How can you take full advantage? We'll break it all down. And finally, we will explore the world of high-end new construction builds. These aren't fully custom, but close to it. And if you see yourself leaning towards luxury and maybe don't need completely from scratch, it could be a really interesting time. Before we jump in, I do have something special for you guys. If you resonate with the content in these videos, you must sign up for my new Florida Relocation monthly email report. This free 30-day report is jam-packed full of the latest buyer incentives, the hottest quick move-in opportunities, interesting resale, MLS opportunities, and much more. Right to your inbox, zero spam, just bite-sized updates on the Florida real estate market. The link is below this video in the description box. Please sign up, stay informed, and let's get started with our first topic.
This is the Birdie Told Me Coming Soon new construction community update. This is going to be a Sarasota greater metro focused conversation. It's also very niche and contextual. So the more you know, probably the more value is here, but also I'm going to try to speak to someone that's not super familiar. But what the takeaway here is that basically whether you're in a community and you're like, this is an investment opportunity or something I could hop to in a couple of years, or you haven't purchased yet and you want to know, should I buy if this is coming? I think it's the two birds, one stone there. The first section I want to hit is Lower Lakewood Ranch, Florida. And it's something I've hinted at a lot in silos, but there's enough now where I feel like this is a whole thing. And I want to talk to that. Now, quick history lesson, Sarasota, Florida, built in on grids, as is Lakewood Ranch. So it's east to west, north to south. The east to west conversation, the lowest we're going to go here is Fruitville Road. Fruitville Road is how you get from like the suburb, like Lakewood Ranch, to the beaches, to the coast. You got to shoot over left to right to left rather. So Fruitville's like this, then a University Parkway, State Road 70, State Road 64, and beyond. All east to west, that grid. The north to south grid, all the way to the coast, the coastal interstate of sorts, is US 41. It's called Tamiami Trail. That's where the west of the trail conversation comes from. Basically the closest main road before you get to the water. Actual interstate is further east, I-75. And I-75 starts crossing all these streets. Lakewood Ranch Boulevard sits next to it. Then Lorraine Road, U-Line, Bourneside. So those are the north to south. Most of Lakewood Ranch originally was built in the corridor of basically above University Parkway on that one, and then Interstate Lakewood Ranch Boulevard. So this is Summerfield and Greenbrook and the River Club, Country Club West. A lot of it was built there. Then they moved over. And this is where you got the Sapphire Point, the Esplanade Azario, all the stuff that's to the right of the high school, basically. Sweetwater, all that kind of stuff. Lorraine Lakes, that was all built to the right. But that was a mirror. If you look at it on a map, it was a mirror of what already happened. There was already an Esplanade, and then they launched an Azario, right? So that's what they built. Then they came down and built Waterside. It was the first time they ever went below University. And that's why it was in Sarasota County. The rest is in Manatee. And that's the fun, sexy area. And then they just started bleeding east to west, right? But it's the same conversation of what I'm saying. They just made the grid bigger. Well, the newest thing, if you follow with me there, right? University Parkway, which sits right below Waterside, or right above, rather, to the east of it, University Parkway, Lorraine Road intersection. You see a Libby's restaurant, one of my favorites. Across the street, Chase Bank. There's a Starbucks. The neighborhood on that side is called the Lake Club, like a old school luxury neighborhood people love. It's a lovely place. And next to that is a neighborhood called the Isles, which is Toll Brothers. And then if you keep going that direction, you basically run over to the Bourneside area and you run into Concession, which is like an old school golf community. It's very exclusive. It's very small. Monarch Estates is over there with John Cannon. And you can loop back around to those other neighborhoods that I mentioned. That area is what I want to focus on. So if you look across the street from the Isles and the Lake Club, and you go far, the part you can't really see from that area, that's where Wild Blue is. So 550 homes, 505 homes, whatever it be, huge lakes, just like the lakes on the main part of Waterside they originally built. That's where Shellstone's going to go below that. So they're basically creeping down towards Fruitville. And then the Founders Club is like diagonal to that area. Well, if you're still on that side before you hit Wild Blue, next to like the Starbucks area, there's a bunch of stuff that looks like conservation. Nothing really over there, right? And then if you keep going back, there's like a behind the concessions. There's this whole area, which I'll try to show on a map here. Well, what we're hearing there is that basically I mentioned an Esplanade, like near Waterside community with the Taylor Morrison community. I mentioned that potentially you could have everything Azario has, but not golf, and maybe be half the size, maybe be the size of just the social membership side of Esplanade Azario, i.e. 800 to 1,000 homes, and maybe have the Bahama Bar or at least the restaurants, but not the golf. I mentioned that coming. We believe it's going in that direction. I think this is going to be a year or two at least thing, but that's going to be one of the most popular communities that exists. It's basically like Esplanade Sky Ranch, but in Lakewood Ranch, in the location that a lot of people want. We're also hearing that Neil Communities, which builds Windward, Indigo, Canoe Creek, they build the Alcove with their Neil signature brand. They build a bunch. Grand Park, Grand Palm, Wisteria, you can keep going. We heard that they own a property that's at the intersection of basically Fruitville, Bourneside, and like kind of the Fruitville, Bourneside University corridor in that area of like 1,000+ homes they're going to build over there. So that's going to be really interesting. And thinking of 1,000+ homes, I'm imagining other builders will hop in. But a lot of people like them because they're a pretty good happy medium, and they have some nice models at both the 52 and the 62-foot size, like the Savannah 2, the Kiowa, just 2,900, 3,200 square feet. They're nice layout, if the prices keep in check. But 1,000 homes is a lot. So it's interesting to see if that's going to be like a nicer version of Windward potentially, but that's going to be over there. And then that rolls right in the back of the Lakewood National times 2, the Calusa National, which is going to be a single, I think, an 18-hole and a 12-hole. But the Lakewood National, they did 2 courses. They had multiple homes. It's very affordable. The loosest rental restrictions in Lakewood Ranch, for the most part, for new construction. You can rent 12 times a year, 1 month at a time. And it's Lennar, so it's like spec homes that have affordability. A lot of people feel like they missed the opportunity there, which is just laden with rentals now. So I could see the hopping from another neighborhood to there or buying an additional home in Calusa National could be a big thing. But that's where it's going. It's just, think about what Lorraine north to south is now. It's the same thing. So they're moving in that direction. But the neighborhoods they're going to put in there seem really interesting. So that's number one. I'm going to let that ride. I'm going to let that rest. The second thing, I want to shoot down to Welland Park real quick. So we got a couple interesting happenings. So basically, like Welland Park in southern Venice, Northport area right now, definitely has a lot more going on than it did a couple of years ago. But as far as like what you could choose, one, like a lot of it's a little played out as far as like availability. Neil Communities went in there with 2 places. One was only 93 something homes. The other one was like just kind of almost all spec and sold out pretty quickly or close to it. Then Toll Brothers came in there with Solstice, which was a pared down that I mentioned at the beginning, pared down so that was like the more luxurious community at the time. Because you had Neil and then you had Mattamy, which plays a lot in there. They built Sunstone. And then Sam Rogers came in there with Unique Custom. They're like a family boutique custom builder. They're really interesting if you have a look down. I've talked about them in the past, but they like the owner walks every lot and stuff. That's interesting. And then Everly came in. Well, Brightmoor's in there too, so there's a 55 and up, but this video's not about that. Everly came in there, and Everly, it's going to be like the that's what it was missing. I talked about that like 2 years ago. It's just about like, it felt like luxury builders were hesitant that the market would be cool with them going in South Venice almost, because of the history's sake. And then that's my take on it. But Everly came in there and it's mixed custom builders, Lee Weatherington, John Cannon, West Bay, and big lakes, a lot of lake views for more affordable than Waterside, and custom options basically, Well, in addition to that, we've heard some interesting things. One is Palmero. So it's weird to name it the same as another community. There's a small community by Taylor Morrison called Palmero and Nokomis. Not that. Different community called Palmero. Has nothing to do with it. Palmero, I'm hearing, is going to be a mixed builder community that is David Weekly. So if you're not familiar with them, a lot of people really like them. They built Emerald Landing in Waterside. They built Payne Park outside of downtown Sarasota. They built Fox Trace near Fruitville Road. But they're going to do single families in there. Homes by Town, which builds in Shellstone, and they built at Lake House Cove in Waterside. That's that Toll Brothers-esque community, but they're really unique builds. I heard that Townhomes by MI are coming in there. So if you want an example of that, look at Nautique. Nautique's like 186 townhomes of like the 215 total homes in Waterside. A lot of affordability usually with those. And then I heard Toll Brothers is in there. So that mix is like interesting. I've not seen that mix come a lot. So all that to say, if you're going down there and Everleast's too much for you, it's too custom, too expensive, not quite right for you, and the drop off from them is to a boutique small builder, this could give you a happy medium. That's my take on that. And I heard more is coming along with that. Finally, as I digress here, thanks for sticking with me. There's a unique one, got some notes for this one, called Seaflower. So if you, this is a whole development. It's a whole thing. It's like a part of town. If you found yourself ever curious about coastal proximity, new construction homes, and all the stuff that's missing with that, right? Like right now, trying to do that a lot of times is weird if it's not $1 trillion because they just don't have a lot of land to build like master plan over there, right? So like to get a normal neighborhood with amenities that's not $1 trillion, that's also kind of near the water is just not super common. That's why Welland Park's so popular because it's so close to the coast. A lot of people have been like, what about Western Bradenton? What's the deal with Western Bradenton? What's the deal with, I'm talking about coastal Bradenton. What's the deal with Palmasola or IMG Academies up there? Like, and that has been a part of town that people have difficulty getting their head around if you're not from here. Going north of downtown Sarasota is typically where it's still urban, but in a way that's like, it doesn't look like the suburbs is the best way to describe it. South does. Well, that's where Seaflower comes into play. So on Sarasota Bay, almost parallel to Bradenton Beach, which is above Longboat Key, below Palmasola Bay, very, very coastal. Listen to this. First phase of development will be 1,700 residential units, 250 hotel rooms, 350,000 square feet of office and retail space. Within walking distance of the residents will be a main street area that they're building called the Village Square, neighborhood grocer, restaurants, retailers, and entertainment venues. They believe that people will be in there in mid-2025. The acreage, let me get the acreage on this place. It was 1,175 acres, which is quite large. So it's right next to Cortez and IMG Academy, if you're familiar with that area. But I'll show a picture on the map here. But we're talking 1,063 homes, 600 apartments, 400 acres, south of Cortez Road and 75th Street. Builder-wise, Cardell Homes. So Cardell, if you're not familiar with them, I think they're kind of underrated. I don't know why. People, I don't know. I mean, I think they're underrated. So they built half of Worthington, which is across the street from Artistry. And then they jumped in Artistry, which is Coulter Homes. So if you need an example, David Weekly, who I just mentioned, is in here. MI Homes is in here. And Pulte. They're going to do Craftsman, West Indies, farmhouse designs, and just to name a few. So I'm going to leave it there. There's going to be trails, all kinds of stuff, right? But again, what they're doing is think of Welland Park to the north. So it's called Seaflower. So definitely reach out. I'll get you in the know. But I wanted to mention that one. That's a real anomaly one versus these onesie twosies, like kind of coastal neighborhoods. What's going on with home builder incentives, new construction incentives to buyers that's available right now in Southwest Florida? We're seeing multiple things. And one is just they're giving more money across the board than I've seen in a long period of time. They're giving money in multiple ways as well. So they're discounting the base prices of the home, which is my favorite, the premium. They're also discounting the lots themselves, which is important, right? Because the lot, most neighborhoods, the lot of the home, you can't buy separately one, but it also, the lot, the base price of the home, the beginning price, and the structural upgrades, that's what makes up the contract. So money is money there. And then design comes a little bit after because it's aesthetic. It doesn't affect the permit. But design, they're giving design dollars. Like I've seen, we just had a customer get like $75,000 on design dollars, which sounds like fun, fake money, but it's not insignificant. $50,000 upgrade can replace, the normal 18 by 18 tile with full engineered hardwood for a 3,000 square foot house. So if you get $45,000 to $65,000, for the most part, if you go to a design center, that is the chunk of things that affect you. It's the it's the changing to quartz countertops. It is major upgrades like that, flooring, that kind of thing that you don't want to do later. It could wipe all that out. So that's interesting. And they're paying down rates for periods of time, interest rates. So what they're doing is they're peacocking to say what matters to you, what matters to different people, and can we catch everyone somewhere? because everything matters a little bit and people are sensitive about different issues. We're also seeing this centered heavily around quick move-in homes, more than I've seen ever probably, is that they're really trying to do these spec homes where they basically just pre-design them, get them through permit, and maybe when you catch them, they're 2 to 6 months out versus building that same home that takes 12 months. They've already pre-selected almost everything for the most part. So you're not coming in and choosing, but you're building a house that someone else designed. So if that works for you some way, like you're either attracted to the timeline and the money or something like that, you can gain a big advantage there. And the one thing to also consider is that the builders know way more about what everyone, not what they think, but what everyone actually chooses than any of us ever would. So they don't make it weird. They do white kitchens. They do the floors everybody wants, like either LVP or engineered hardwood. They do the upgrades just enough where if the house is expensive enough, they do upgrades where they would be deal breakers for people at certain price ranges. So for the most part, they're beautiful, homes. They just kind of stay in a box that makes sense, but they control the cost, so they can offer more incentives there. And they also are incentivized to get rid of these homes and close them before quarterly ends and fiscal year ends. So people are really taking advantage of that. We're also seeing, I think they're really feeling the heat between high inventory markets that we resale that they're competing with, non-urgent buyer pool, which I've talked about in depth, and also one of the biggest leverages here for buyers is that the builders compete against each other. Since they're not necessarily fully colluding with each other, they, it's not like mobile phone companies. There's not three. There's not T-Mobile and AT&T and Verizon where they're going to figure it out amongst them. There's a lot of these guys. So as long as there's always going to be a lot of these guys, they have to compete with each other. They have to get you to buy their neighborhood versus the other guy. And because of that, the staying power of this stuff, I think, will be greater than resale homes where people just need it more than these guys need it. And then, overall, like I mentioned, we're seeing people wait to see, are they going to drop more? Should I do it now and should I rush in? Or if they want me to rush, is it a bad deal because they want me to rush? Or, did I just do it because I'm tired of the lifestyle I'm currently living? And I think herein lies the biggest decision amongst all this kind of stuff is you got to balance that. When you have leverage, you have leverage now, but the minute these builders are not doing this to be nice, the minute they get any sort of leverage again, they'll rip the carpet out so fast we wouldn't even believe it. And that's what they've always done. I mean, that's what they did in 2020. I mean, people are spending $250,000 to bid on lots with the possibility to potentially buy with no transparency around why they choose who they chose. And then the minute they need you, they're all over you. They're calling you, they're giving stuff away. So this is about you. If you're going to guess right, it's about you saying, this stuff's not infinite. These dollars are always not going to exist. It's just because the builder needs you at the time. So as long as you can balance that right, it's a really interesting time to be a buyer, And I wouldn't think everything's a trick. I think you just got to understand what this builder cares about and why, and that also could be great for you. That kind of wraps this section. But again, this is that newsletter I mentioned in the intro. If you didn't catch that, I can say this in a random statement here, but I'm going to list and itemize all the incentives available in the monthly newsletter. Sign up in the description box below. It's a 30-day report. And the quick move-in homes, that's going to be 2 parts of this newsletter. So please sign up for that. That would be the best way that this information wouldn't expire.
Almost custom builders. So setting the scene foundationally, let's say that you want something a little higher end, like I mentioned in the intro. And this is more of for this example, is a community. This is a normal neighborhood with amenities, probably in a suburb, not necessarily urban infill on your own lot, although it's not mutually exclusive, just for conversation's sake. And then you want something nicer from the standpoint of one of multiple categories, probably. Nicer appliances or fixtures in a catalog to choose from. They're here, you want to be here. Flexibility and open-mindedness. Some builders will do slightly more to get you over the hump than other builders will. Or just if you built homes before, the general feel, the layout, the front elevations, just something that is a different tier. And I would say one step up tier-wise from maybe a David Weekley or an MI or a Neal Communities, Taylor Morrison historically, Mattamy. You want to be one step up from that. Well, you also don't want to go full custom from scratch build. One of 2 reasons mostly, or both. One of those is the house I just described might be $750,000 to maybe 1.2, 1.3, 1.4 million in Southwest Florida on average. Well, if you do that custom, it's probably a 1.7 and $2.5 million conversation in a similar area trying to do a similar thing with a similar square footage, that's a big disparity. So it might be overkill for you. That rolls into the next point of saying that it might just be overkill in general, as far as like options available. Most people in the population, in my experience, the majority, can figure out a way to do it on the builders that pre-package it for you in some fashion, because that package could be hundreds and thousands of options across multiple floor plans. But they just feel that for that jump in price, they're willing to try to figure it out here, unless it's a particular neighborhood or something like that. So if you fall in that camp, a couple interesting things to look at right now in this part of Florida. One is Toll Brothers. Toll Brothers has always been in this conversation for me as a builder. They've always sat in that category. They're very elegant for the price points, especially where we're going in the current market, where those mid-tier builders that I mentioned, they're priced at here when they've always been here. So they're not that different than the Tolls of the world, which makes the Tolls of the world more valuable to me. And then there's still a big gap from Toll to the custom. So I think that arbitrage is what's really, really important. And they're also unique. You know, in the world of platted out new construction, if one builder builds an entire neighborhood themselves without it being mixed, then whether it's Mediterranean or coastal or somewhere in between, it's usually those two. It'll start to look very similar because they have a rhythm of how they build things. It's villas, single families, townhomes, and they all, look similar vibe at the end of the day. Well, Toll has really unique front elevations, the way they do the brick, the way they do coastal versus not. They have a lot of model options. Some have 8, they'll have 25 in neighborhoods. So that helps as well. In the area right now, I think a couple interesting things. One, the Isles, that's a neighborhood that I actually lived in 2 years ago. The Isles in Lower Lakewood Ranch, Florida, is still kind of sitting in an interesting spot. It's one of the more high-end neighborhoods. They also built a sister community right below it, just released, called Monterey. It's almost a mirror. It really is a mirror of the Isles in a lot of ways. It's slightly further east, but potentially a little bit bigger lots. A little bit more country feel right now, but that's going to change, and just gives you some more options amongst a waterside district that everybody wants to be close to in Lakewood Ranch, Florida. The one interesting thing that Toll does is they do a pared down, a little bit more affordable version of their luxury in markets where they deem the other thing wouldn't fit the market. And 2 good examples of that are in Venice, Florida. So in North Venice, they have one called Venice Woodlands, and in South Venice, Northport area, they have one called Solstice. So if you went there versus Lakewood Ranch, they position it very different. And 1.2 in Lakewood might be 800 in Venice. So that's interesting. They're also doing some interesting 55 and up brands. So you can check out a 55 and up that's going to be released, if it hasn't already, in Apollo Beach, Florida, and lower Tampa Bay. And they also do some unique things with villas and 55 up in Naples as well. So it gives you a high-end, empty nester, small square footage idea. Another option would be Homes by Town. They don't build a town with an E. They don't build a lot in Florida, but this is more of a neighborhood divide, right? So Homes by Town is in a neighborhood called Shellstone that just released, which is also going to be custom builders in there. Huge lakes. It's in Lower Lakewood Ranch, Florida as well. Amazing amenity center, all that kind of thing. So if you like Toll, and Homes by Town is a similar vibe, different stylistically, but you want to be in Shellstone, not in Monterey, then the option is the neighborhood. But these, I think, could give you a comparison where they're not that different in price and style and deposit schedule and all that. So if you really, really love a neighborhood, you might be able to make it work. Beyond that, I'm not going to get crazy here, but Homes by West Bay has been interesting. I don't know if you're familiar with them. I built a Homes by West Bay in like 2014 up in Wesley Chapel, Florida. And they were like, I built Homes by West Bay in 2014 because I couldn't afford at the time Pulte. And so, but in Sarasota, I don't know if anyone would view Homes by West Bay versus Pulte because they've come out with like a luxury element. So, but also I think a little bit more affordable than others. So, but again, a different neighborhood thing. So another thing to look at with Homes by West Bay, they're building in Star Farms in Lakewood Ranch. So it gives you a nice juxtaposition versus being higher end than D.R. Horton, but more affordable than Arthur Ruttenberg. And they're also building down in a couple places in Welland Park in South Venice. So I actually asked David Salkin, who's a real estate partner with me. He lives in Esplanade Zario, the Taylor Morrison community in Lakewood. I asked him to go out. He's really high on West Bay's arbitrage against other communities. So I asked him to go out and film on site his take on it.
I'm Dave Salkin, one of Adam Hancock's partners at the Sunshine State Real Estate Company. And today I'm standing inside one of the model homes at West Bay inside Star Farms. My clients come from all over the country, and when they contact me and give me a price range, and they give me their criteria, I try to, in my head, plug them into the most logical short list of communities they should be looking at to make their search much more manageable. So if you were to say to me, I have $1 million to $1.5 million budget, I want an amenity-rich community, true resort-style living, but I want a more luxury type home. I want something that feels more like a custom home. Where would you show me? Well, the list becomes short if we're talking that level of builder quality that's going to exceed what is more average or typical. So, places like that are built by, let's say, Lennar or D.R. Horton, they build a nice house, but it's much more basic. If you want to step up and get a different level of interior finishes that you typically only find with either semi-custom or the true custom builders, the list becomes small. So we might be talking Neil Homes, Windward at the southern end. You might be able to step into Shellstone, which is built by Homes by Town, but that's going to be a little bit more expensive. So your home gets much smaller. You're going to have nice amenities and a beautiful home, but your square footage is going to be smaller. Or you can come up to the northeast end of Lakewood Ranch, where you're looking at Taylor Morrison's Esplanade at Azario, beautiful golf community, tons of amenities, real resort lifestyle. Or across the street, you've got Star Farms. Star Farms offers 3 builders inside one community. The D.R. Horton product, which is townhomes from $350 to about $850. Not just townhomes, homes up to $850. You've got the custom builders, John Cannon, Lee Weatherington, AR Homes, who are building homes in the $2 to $5 million plus category. And now you have this niche in between of $750 to about $2 million built by West Bay. And West Bay gives you the appearance of a fully custom home, even though it's only semi-custom. If you look at what they give you, a kitchen like this with this type of custom hood, not usually available from most builders in the design center. If you look at the built-in refrigerator and the upgraded kitchen appliances, also not typical builder grade. And for me, the most important part about living in Florida is your outdoor lifestyle. Look at the sliders here. The entire rear of this home opens up and gives you about a 24-foot span of just glass. It's gorgeous, and it really welcomes you into the outdoor living space. Another thing that you never see at anybody other than the custom builders is the tray ceiling with the beams in it. Everybody will give you a tray ceiling, but when you look at the models and you see these fancy things that are built in, unless you go fully custom, your inside sales rep in these communities are going to explain to you that, no, you'd have to do that after you move in. That's just a model home. Not with West Bay. If you see it in their model, they will make it available to you. So you can have them do these beams when they build your house. This wood feature on the back wall here, and they can do board and batten, they can do wainscoting. There's a lot of different ways to do paneling and wood features. They'll do this for you when they build your home. Again, it's a luxury feature in luxury homes, usually associated with the custom builders, but with West Bay, you can do it at a semi-custom price. So if we compare prices, this home that we're standing in is probably in that $1.5 million range. Maybe this one might be a little bit more because they've gone over the top in the kitchen. And if I show you the interior features of homes that would look like this, most builders are going to be much more expensive. I think West Bay gives you a lot of home for the money. And if you figure out the price per square foot, I think it's really a great option. So if we're talking amenity-rich community, true resort-style living, which is what you're going to get from any of the builders that are in Star Farms, this is a great place to have fun. But if you look at the interiors, I think this is a great option compared to the other builders I'd put in this same category.
Okay, that does it for episode number 1 of Florida Relocation Weekly. Again, my name is Adam Hancock. I hope you enjoyed it and found it valuable. Please give me any feedback. You can email us or reach out however you want to. If there was some things you like, some things you didn't, sign up for that monthly report. It's the best thing you can do, like I mentioned several times. I also have done a Southwest Florida wide relocation guide, moving more in the direction of comparisons in that respect. That is now on the website. It will be in the description box below as well. Of course, at any time, you can schedule calls with us via calendar. You can reach out directly. Our contact information is everywhere. The sunshinestateco.com is a great place to watch more videos in a much more organized manner than YouTube, to read blogs. And then very soon here, if not already, we will have an audio version of all of these so you can listen in your car and you can separate them a lot more, pause them a lot more, save things a lot more. I think that's all I got. Again, my name is Adam Hancock. This is the Florida Relocation Guide. I own a brokerage called the Sunshine State Company. So if you need any help with buying, selling, and or investing in any real estate needs residentially across the entire state of Florida, especially the Southwest Gulf and Coast, please let us know. And most importantly, I really appreciate all of you guys' support. I do not take it lightly. Thank you for taking your precious time to watch my content. We'll see you on the next one.